So I'm going to share with you strategies on how to learn faster. But what you want to remember is all learning is state dependent. So I'm going to go through these brain hacks really fast. How many people here listen to my podcast? Raise your hand. Okay. So we talk about this a lot in the show. I have a 10-minute show. It's called Quick Brain. If you just search my name on your iPhone, your phone podcast app, you'll see the show come up. It's about 10, 15 minutes long on how to remember names, how to give a speech without notes, how to learn a language, how to change your habits, and it's absolutely free, okay? So I recommend going there. All right, so I'm going to go through this really fast. You take notes, and I'm going to share with you the strategies on how to learn faster. How many people have a subject you'd like to learn faster? How many people have a skill you'd like to learn, right? Whether it's music, martial arts, Mandarin, marketing, right? Think about what you want to apply this to. And I'm going to go through this framework, and I'm going to share something I don't usually share on stage, and it's very advanced in my mind, but I think everyone here could handle it. Who here could handle it? And it's going to solve, and really, it's going to explain to you why we don't do the things that we need to do. Because the truth is, I believe that knowledge is not power. I think it's a lie. Knowledge is only potential power. It only becomes power when you what? Right, when you use it, when you apply it. Otherwise, you could buy all the books, you could buy all these programs, but it sits on the shelf and it becomes like shelf help, not self-help. Does that make sense? And so it doesn't become really useful to you unless you use it. But why do you delay putting that stuff off? You ever wonder that? So I'm going to share with you a framework that really changed my life. When I understood it, I was able to teach it to other people, and they were able to get themselves to do the things they need to do. Now, if some of the things I'm going to talk about are common sense, because you've heard it before, there's a difference between dabblers and people who really want to master something. Does that make sense? And if you're here, you're on that road to excellence, because otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? It's proof positive because you self-selected being here when most people aren't here. Does that make sense? And so you're a special kind of individual, so you're going to apply it because it makes no sense. People will learn something and it's common sense, but common sense is not always common practice, right? And that's the difference that makes a difference. And so the framework is this. I want you to remember, if you want to learn any subject or skill faster, specifically for your memory, first of all, I want you to remember MOM, M-O-M. So just remember MOM. And we're going to go through this really fast because I want to build on this. If you're ever forgetting something, usually it's one of these three things, M-O-M. Now, raise your hand if you like to remember names better. Raise your hand. Okay. Let's say there's a suitcase here of $1 million cash. You go home with it. It's all yours, tax-free. You give it to yourself, your favorite charity, anything. If you just remember the name of the next person you meet in this room, raise your hand if you're going to remember that person's name for $1 million. Now, how come this room is full of memory experts all of a sudden? Now, as your brain coach, the reason why I bring this up is because the expert, I don't always see the expert as the person in front of the room or the one that writes the book or that expert. I think, who's the expert? You are, right? You are the expert of you. So I have a fundamental belief that genius leaves clues. Genius leaves clues. That if somebody does something extraordinary, you could also do something similar if you find out how they do it. Because there's always a method behind what looks like magic. There's always a method. When somebody has a great relationship, or they live really long, or they have great focus, or they could read faster, genius leaves clues. So I'm going to show you how to extract that. Now, notice when I said that, who would remember the name for $1 million, everyone raised their hand. So it had nothing to do with your capabilities, right? So are you able to remember someone's name? Yes or no? Yes, you just don't want to. So the M stands for motivation. Motivation. And I'm sensitizing you to how we operate, right? I believe there's a success formula. I call it H cubed. 3 H's. Head, heart, hands. Head, heart, hands. That you could visualize things in your head. You could set goals in your mind. You could set all of these things that you have here inside here in your imagination, but if you're not acting with your hands, how many people have ever done that? You come to an event like this and you're like, okay, this is it. I'm really going to do X, right? With your, do something new. And you have this vision for it, but you don't act on it. Usually what's missing is that second H, which is the heart. And what does the heart do? It's the emotions, right? The emotions. And so we do this because we're not logical, we're biological, right? We're not logical, we're biological. When you're thinking about, all the dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, all the endorphins, like we act, we're this chemical soup, right? That gets us to do certain things or not. And so why do you self-sabotage? Why do you learn something here? So you can think about and visualize it, and you believe in the law of attraction, but how many people also believe in the law of action? Right? Doing things, right? So the formula is be, do, have, share. Be, do, have, share. That, specifically in that order, right? Because it's just like a phone number. If you switch numbers, do you get the same result? No, it has to be in that order because if you try to shortcut it, let's say somebody wins the millions of dollars in the lottery and they have, at their stage, what happens historically? You know this, right? Because it's this cliche. What happens after someone wins the lottery and wins millions of dollars? They go, after a while, they go below what they were worth when they started, right? Because they have millions of dollars, but they weren't at the B stage. They weren't a millionaire. Does that make sense? Be, do, have, share. And so there's a success formula that goes in that specific order. In order to have something, you have to do something. In order to do it, you need a belief that allows you to do it, right? So going back to motivation, what I would say is this. If you want to remember something, like someone's name, ask yourself, why do I want to remember this person's name? So simple, right? But here's what you want to avoid, because this is the critic that robs you of the result, is like, oh, that's so easy. But it's the simple things. How many people believe it's the simple things in your lifestyle that's going to make the biggest result in your health, right? That anybody can make anything more complicated. But in simplicity, like I'm looking for like elegance, because there's too much information, too little time, right? How many people feel like when you're learning something, it's like drinking out of a fire hose, right? You're like drowning information, but you're starving for like wisdom. You know what I mean? Like practical things to be able to do. And I'm saying what you could do to remember names is just ask yourself, why do I want to remember it? Maybe it's to show the person respect. Maybe it's to make a new friend. Maybe it's to practice these things I learned, from Jim. Because here's what you want to remember. What you practice in private, you're rewarded for in public.